Hey everybody, welcome to Hangin Sangin. I'm Kelly McCartney from the Bluegrass Situation. With me today at Hillbilly Central, Eliot Bronson. Welcome.
Thanks.
Good to
Thanks
have
for
you.
having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad you stuck around for the day.
Hey, why not?
Nice. So, upcoming record out August 25th.
Yes.
James.
James.
Fourth record. Second.
I
Is
didn't
that
even know.
right?
That sounds right. I'm not sure.
Come on. It's not like you're 18 and you lost count.
You're right. You
come
got
on.
it. Four.
Second produced by Dave Cobb, though.
Yeah.
Our buddy Dave.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying all week to come up with something nice to say about the man.
It's tough,
I
right?
don't. It's
Yeah.
it's hard.
I know, he's a monster.
Yeah. Gosh. You know what I will say? Back 25 years ago, John Leventhal was my guy. Like, if he made a record, I knew I would like it.
Right.
Because we had the same taste.
Yeah.
Cobb's my guy now. Like,
Yeah.
if he makes a record, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like this.
And that's interesting because those guys are pretty different
Mm-hmm.
in their style, but I agree.
But we've all grown. So,
Yeah.
cheers to you, Dave Cobb. Let's do a little Eliot Bronson 101. Little bit.
Okay.
You grew up in Baltimore.
Yeah.
In what, I'm to use your word, a chaotic household.
That's not necessarily my word.
Well, it was in quotes.
Well, okay. I'm just, my folks may be listening, so
Okay.
they
Well, that
Sorry,
doesn't have
Mom.
to mean bad, chaotic.
No, it was an interesting place.
All right.
Yeah, we grew up, around the corner from the church that my parents went to, and
Right.
my grandparents started, and there was a lot of hardcore religion going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you sort of used your own explorations of spirituality and music as escape hatches,
Yeah,
bomb shelters.
I'm a nerd. For
so,
sure.
So how did kind of digging through Eastern philosophy, how did that go over in the family of Pentecostal preacher folk?
We're just jumping into the deep end.
Oh, we are.
I love it.
Yeah, we had the warm up already.
Yeah, I know, it's true. Well, I think for the most part it was pretty welcome because we're an unusual family. My folks, they were very religious at one time, and then they've kind of migrated to the other side. I mean, my mom I think is still pretty religious. My dad I think isn't anymore, and so I got like a lot of different messages, and I think the main message I got was like, you should think for yourself.
Oh, that's a great one to get.
Yeah. So, so it's like, dig into it, figure it out.
Yeah.
So.
Were you able to draw some parallels between, because it was like there was some Zen Buddhism and some other things you probably dug into. Were you able to draw parallels between that and the Pentecostal stuff that was kind of in the lineage?
Yeah, I don't think like in terms of like the actual teachings of the church that I kept much of that, but like underneath it, like these like just principles, like that there is some deeper meaning, and there's like ways to get in touch with it, and purpose and art and beauty and all that stuff. Like to me, I got that, and I kept it, and I still see that in lots of people's spirituality and Christianity, and I don't always think about it in terms of just like the dogma. In fact, I try not to think about that.
Yeah, because the dogma is what gets us all in trouble.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it can be kind of gross.
Yeah. So then, as a teen, you got a guitar.
Yeah.
And kind of you dug into Bob Dylan and some other records. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I was like before I got into folk music, I was like on a path to do punk rock music. That was where I wanted to be.
All right, I could see that.
You could see
that.
Yeah. And then I started listening to these records that my folks had laying around, these Dylan records and things like that, and it was obvious to me that it was coming from a similar sort of perspective, like outsider.
Yeah.
Again, thinking for yourself, making something, a little bit rebellious that was beautiful.
Truth to power.
Yeah, all that, and it was easier to do. I didn't need a band, so I could just pick up the guitar and and do that. And it was a real bit of like I didn't really have like a community for it. That was the part that was hard, but it stuck with me longer than the punk rock
Gotcha.
fascination.
Now you can tell me if this quote is correct as well.
Go for it.
But there was, I read that you said about Dylan or in some of that music that it asked you to be smart and to become a better version of yourself. Was that a perspective you had at the time, or did that come with a little bit more maturity and clarity on things.
Yeah, I wonder when I said that. It sounds like something I'd say, so I assume I said it.
Okay.
I think that I knew right away that this music was really smart, and that it was challenging, and it wasn't giving me easy answers. You know,
Right. You had to step up to meet it.
yeah, you had to meet it, and I thought like that's what I want to do, and that's what still inspires me, and I see a lot of music that is like trying to come down to where people are,
Right.
and that just doesn't interest me in any way. Like that turns me off, and
the lowest common denominator is what's going to it's going to just ruin the world.
it's working on it.
Whether it's music or what. Lowest common denominator to me is.
Yeah, and I think that there's like there's an inherent good in just making art that does that, even if it doesn't have a social political message. Just art that is coming from a genuine, intelligent, inspired place.
Right.
That asks you to say, hey, you know, can you come over here and look at it from this perspective that maybe you haven't? Like, I think that's worth doing in the world.
Yeah, yeah. Now, your current sound, do you feel like it's evolved over your 4 records from when you started to where you are now?
Has to have, I guess. You know, I mean, I'm always trying to like hone my craft and get better at it, and so I think it's. I don't know that I have the best perspective on it because I'm so in it, but
it's that self-identifying thing.
Yeah.
Too. Like, do you feel like what you're doing is Americana, or would you pick you not rap? We're not going to rap, but
yeah. I kind of feel like there's a part of me that's pulling away from that a little bit, but I don't know if I am. I mean, honestly, like somebody else's. It depends on where, you know, what your perspective is. I mean, I'm a dude playing acoustic guitar and singing, so to a lot of people, like that's just gonna be Americana no matter what I do.
That's true.
But like when I hear, you know, what's quote unquote Americana, a lot of times, like I really feel like it's rooted, like lyrically, it's rooted in like identity, regionalism, and you know, sort of like an everyman quality, and all that's cool. I'm just not really trying to do any of that.
Right.
So in that way, maybe I'm not. But again, it just depends. Like,
yeah, I'm calling it folk rock. I'm trying to bring folk rock back.
I like folk, but like when you add rock to it, I think of.
Well, only because like on the new record,
yeah,
like I hear the Dylan in there, I hear the Birds in there,
oh, cool.
and some, you know.
Yeah,
and to me, that was the beginning of folk rock.
Yeah. So, all right, maybe you can resurrect folk rock in a way
trying.
that I can get behind.
Well, yeah, because I had noticed that people hadn't been using that as a term lately, folk rock, and as soon as I said that to somebody, that day I got a press release calling a record folk rock. I was like, I am magic. So I'm bringing it back.
I really like it. I think that folk rock like took a turn for what it meant like in the 90s.
Yes.
So like what you're calling folk rock, I can get behind.
Okay. You're with me.
So we're going to reclaim it.
Yeah, we are. We are. Because even the Eagles, to me, that's folk rock.
Sure.
Or country. I mean, some people call it country folk. Yeah. I think it's more folk rock.
Yeah.
But
hey, I'm with you.
Okay.
The songs were better back then in that genre.
That's true. That is true.
If I can say that.
Yeah. So like you were saying, the whole guy with the guitar thing.
Yeah.
You know, you do get comparisons to folks like Jason Isbell and Ryan Adams and that kind of thing. So how do you synthesize that level of praise, but also like trying to step away from just being another?
Yeah. Well, if people want to say nice things about me, I'm going to take it no matter what. Like, first off, if you're going to compare me to really good people, then I'll say cool. Well, I mean, you know, I think that like a lot of people listen to music in different ways, right?
Yeah.
And if you're just talking about like the vibe, the sound, the acoustic strings, and you know, a similar style voice, then it's absolutely true that that's, you know, I'm like those people. But if you're coming at it from like a writer's perspective, I think I write really differently than those guys.
I would say so.
And that's cool. I mean, you know, that's just the way it should be, right? Because if you're telling an authentic story, it has to have your own voice in it.
Yeah.
So a little of this, a little of that.
Yeah. Now, is that sort of the more literal storytelling, songwriting? You know, something when people do it well, like Jason Isbell does it incredibly well.
Sure.
So there's still room, even if that's not your story, you can sort of find yourself in that, or someone you
Yeah.
know as
Yeah.
a listener.
Right.
But is that one of your arguments for being just a little bit more poetic in it, just to leave a little bit more space for
I just
overlaying?
You know, I just think that it's what moves me. It's what I kind of like. I'm gravitate towards. Like I don't really have a calculation behind it. It's not like I set out to like find a square on the map. It hasn't been, there's no flag here.
Yeah.
Let's have this one. But it just so happens that like I really like poetic writing and stuff that challenges me intellectually as not just musically.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what and I see that in those guys writing too.
Sure.
And the other thing is, like, I don't think that the world is ever going to get tired of having another good song. So if you can write a good song and you go, that's really good, but it sounds like, who cares?
Yeah, right.
We'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's good, but we don't need to hear that.
We don't need that. We've got all this.
Yeah, we've got all this other lowest common denominator, mediocre stuff to listen
bags
to.
and bags of it. So, yeah.
Now, one song on the new record that is a bit of a story song is Rough Ride, which tells the tale of Freddie Gray, the fellow who died in the back of a police van in Baltimore. But in the middle of the song, you also touch on sort of the defiance and the resilience of the city, sort of rising up and not, kind of reflecting the protest that happened there.
Yeah.
So how important was it to you to embed that in there as well as an integral part of the story?
So it's tough to answer because when I'm writing, I don't have a map. I didn't sit down and say, well, I want to tell the story of Freddie Gray, but I got to make sure that I hit all these points.
Gotcha.
I just started telling it, and I write like really in a strange way. I just kind of sing out loud and I memorize as I go. So as things start to work, they stick with me. So as I was telling his story, I mean, that just came out of me, and it seemed to me like what inspired me was, they said when Freddie Gray was killed that they had this thing called a rough ride. Maybe you heard about that, right? So like this wasn't the first time that this
Let's
happened.
give him one.
Right, and so in Philadelphia they call it a nickel ride, and it's something that happens, right?
Yeah.
And he roughs someone up by driving around the car really fast, and I thought, well, isn't that an interesting phrase?
Yeah.
Like, what else does that mean? And then that led me down all these other paths, and it meant all these other things. And I thought, you can't, like, in a certain way, like, I'm not to condone what people did in response or to advocate for it, but just to say, like, of course this is going to happen. What do you think people are going to do?
Right. We're not going to just, roll over and let you do this too.
I mean, you wouldn't roll over if this happened to your family in your house. You wouldn't, you would react. And I think that has bigger implications. And so I thought that was worth talking about.
Yeah. And I think it brings the song together in a really interesting way.
Thanks.
Because it shows the ripple effects of something, of an event.
Right.
Like it doesn't just affect Freddie and his life and his family.
Right.
It affected the entire city.
Right.
Which really affected the entire country.
Right.
So.
Right. And I tried, in my own way, to not really make it take a side, because I really think like both sides are victims in a way. And not to get too political into that, but I tried to put that in the song. So if you're listening to it, I think it's all in there.
All right, good.
Yeah.
You live in Atlanta now, right? Mm-hmm. So those are Baltimore and Atlanta, both cities with pretty big racial divides. But at this point, I kind of feel like almost every city has that. But do you sort of have love affairs with the cities that you live in? You write songs about them.
Yeah. I've written a lot of songs about Baltimore, and I don't know why. I think it's just because I think a lot of artists don't ever feel like they fit in anywhere. We're always kind of weirdos.
Yep.
And I certainly didn't feel like that in Baltimore, but it's just that's the I guess the central dilemma of like, where do you belong and who are your people, and and when I moved to Atlanta, like, even though Maryland is the South, nobody thinks of it as the South, and when I moved to Georgia, it was like we're very clearly regionally identified. We're the South. Even people in Atlanta who aren't that Southern, it's the South.
Yeah.
And that sense of place and that sense of belonging was like, wow, I never really understood this.
Yeah.
And so I just processed that through my own experience and tried to I think I'm still processing that and trying to figure out like what that means for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially as somebody who's on the road a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and experiencing different cities through your own eyes, and also probably, I would assume, trying to see it through the eyes of the people there.
Totally.
But too.
Yeah, and I think identity is just so fascinating.
Oh, it
endlessly fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of like one of the things I'm really getting at in a lot of these songs.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, who we really are, who we think we are, and it's just you could go
who we're striving to be.
Exactly. We're trying to not be.
Yeah. Probably almost more so trying to not be something.
Sometimes, yeah.
Well, let's do song.
Okay.
Which one you want to go with first? You want to go Good Enough?
I was going to play Good Enough because that's the one that we've released and it's out there in the world.
And it's a darn fine song.
Well, thank you very much.
I love this record. I'll just say that right
thanks
up
a lot.
front.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I really do.
All right, well, let's do it.
Eliot Bronson.
Were we really that young, man? It's hard to believe. You hung like a thread on the end of my sleeve. Time is a lender holding the deed while we pay. Well, we kissed like a thunderstorm, howled like the wind, laughed at the night, let the morning light in. Now there's pillows between us, we're quiet as kin where we lay. Is that good enough? Good enough is good enough, good enough for you. Now there's paint around the edges of our window pane, leak in the roof where the ceiling is stained. Everything crumbles if it ain't maintained, it seems. So I live in my books and I live in my head, in between words that we leave unsaid. We turn off the lights and we just go to bed and dream. Is that good enough? Good enough is good enough. Good enough. Is that good enough? Good enough is good enough. Good enough for you. Is that good enough? Good enough is good enough. Good enough. Is that good enough? Good enough is good enough. Good enough for you. For you.
Big folk ending. Nice.
Thank you.
What a great song.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we are at the enlightening round.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to ask. People always say, uh-oh. That's so funny. That's the common response. I'm going to ask you questions based on your song titles.
Okay.
If time ain't nothing, what is it?
Am I supposed to give you like the lyrical answer?
No.
Or?
Well, you can. You can cheat, but...
Okay. If time ain't nothing, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess it's whatever you make of it.
That works. How do you define or experience mercy?
Oh, man. This is hard.
It's enlightening is what it is.
It's enlightening.
Mm-hmm.
That's a question that's really hard to put into words, I think. That's the kind of thing, like, that's the kind of word. It's very loaded, and it's kind of like, what's mercy? You know when you feel it, but it's really hard to tell you.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
You could hum it.
I could say, what's love? You know, it's like, you can sing it. Yeah, right.
What happens when the river runs dry? These are your song titles. It's your fault, Eliot. It's,
Nothing. You just keep on going.
Just get the shovel out. Keep
yeah.
going. How do you know when it's good enough?
You don't.
That's harsh.
Well.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay. What's at the top of the mountain? Or maybe what's on the other side of the mountain?
I don't know that it has a top.
Boy,
I never got there.
You're depressing me.
You started it.
Okay, last one. Fill in the blank. If you need to be free, then...
Get on out of here.
All right. See, I ended with an easy-ish
one. Yeah, that was an easy one, right?
Yeah, I had to give you one. Okay, second song.
Okay, why don't I do a fun one since we were getting down here in the...
Since you just brought it way down.
Yeah,
with
we brought it way down.
There's never a good enough. There's never a top to the mountain. Gosh.
You know.
Mr. Sunshine.
Well, Sunshine doesn't write good songs, does it?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. All right, let's do this one. This is called, I couldn't think of a title for this song, so I just called it Breakdown in G Major. Sky burned down to cinders, darkened like a bruise. I've given myself blisters, all this walking in your shoes. There's nothing you can teach me that I don't know how to do. Turn off that music, 'cause I ain't gonna dance for you. There ain't no money in this business, I got no business in this town. I'm hanging in the rubble where they burn the playhouse down, and I am looking for trouble. And I had troubles looking for me too. Turn up those house lights, I ain't gonna dance for you. Ain't much to hold on to, hold on till you get through. Ain't much to hold on, hold on, yeah. Now your fountain pen is loaded, there's a time bomb in your hand, and you want me to sign along your line drawn in the sand. Well, that ink is black, but I'm used to living with the blue. So you can take the next in line, I'll be fine, and I ain't gonna dance for you. Turn on that music, I ain't gonna dance for you. I ain't gonna dance for you. Dance for
Ooh. Eliot Bronson, Breakdown in G Major.
Yeah. Thanks, Kale.
off the, let's call it the new album.
The new album.
James.
Yeah.
Out August 25th. Produced by Dave Cobb.
That's true.
Did you make it here in Nashville?
We did. Yeah. Yeah.
At Studio A? Room A?
No, we made it at
his house?
At Low Country Sound.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, another fine job by Dave Cobb. He has a tendency to do that.
He's pretty good, I think.
Yeah. He's a pretty good hang, too.
He's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He's a lot of fun.
I like that guy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Such a pleasure.
It was an honor.
I hope it goes really well.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful record. It really is. My only complaint is that it should have a couple more songs on it. But
we'll make the next one extra long.
Okay. Double LP.
There you go. There we go.
Awesome. Next week, Rhonda Vincent. Then August 4th, Will Hogue. August 11th, Ron Pope. August 18th, we're having a double show. Emily Salyers from the Indigo Girls, solo. And Johnny P. So, there you go. We'll see you then. Over and out from Hillbilly Central.